and post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Anthony Melton. Kennard doing a good job on him. Shot clock winding down. Forces him to take a tough shot. Long rebound. Excellent boxing out from Smart. Great defense by Kennard. Great box out to finish off that possession. And does score the second. And a timeout call by Golden State. 7 quick points. And the lead back up to 8.
The work for Austin Reeves. Handling it in space, it's so difficult. Lakers on a 7-0 run.
7-0 run there in the fourth quarter after the Warriors had come back to pull to within 1. The Lakers had led by as many as 12, but the Warriors climbed back into the game. Golden State playing well at times tonight. It was kind of a slugfest, knockdown, drag-out, defensive-type battle through the first and second quarters. When the offense opened up more in the second half, that opened the door for the Lakers to prevail in this one as they get the job done over the Warriors tonight down in L.A. Final of 105-99, the final. So we welcome you in. It is Dubs OT with JD. Here on the Sports Leader, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. No Steph, obviously. There continues to be no Jimmy Butler. No Luka on the Lakers side of things. Kind of a dud when it comes to the star power. And the Warriors, at times in this game, as we kind of run through it a little bit here, just off the jump, at times in this game, the Warriors did compete and have success at the level that they were able to in Phoenix. And actually it kind of felt a lot like the Phoenix game through the first quarter and even quarter number 2, and the comeback after the Lakers had built the 12-point lead to get down to 1 there in the fourth quarter, but just not enough offense for the Warriors, and a night where you look at the Lakers roster and who they had available, still LeBron James, who kind of took the game over in the third quarter, and the Lakers outscore the Warriors 38-29 in that third quarter. So that really, I think, proved to be the difference in the game. And then Austin Reeves is a terrific player, and the Warriors without Steph and without Jimmy, just the best 2 players on the floor on paper coming into a game like tonight. And I know Austin Reeves is on a minutes restriction, and he's still coming back off an injury. But Austin Reeves' ability to score, to create for others, is something that the Warriors just don't have a guy that's in that third or fourth most important player level. For the Lakers, it's really 3, but the Warriors don't. They don't have a guy. Even in normal terms, Melton can do a little bit of that, but not like Austin Reeves can do in terms of the ability to really score the ball and create and do those things. So Warriors lose 105-99. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open as well. We've got Kyle Haar in the Daly City studios on the controls. And of course, we appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch on this Saturday. And on this Saturday, where we already had a couple of hours in the morning of just dubs and continuing to work our way from the trade deadline and toward the All-Star break now, with just 2 home games remaining for the Warriors between now and the All-Star break. Home game Memphis on Monday, and then a home game against San Antonio on Wednesday, the 11th, before the Warriors end up taking the week off. And it looks as if we're not going to see Steph Curry or Kristaps Porzingis until after the All-Star break, as the Warriors dip with the loss to 28 and 25 on the season. And before the game, the Mike Dunleavy, Kristaps Porzingis meeting with the media, there was that press conference that I know many were wondering about and asking about when it was going to happen, and mentioned the fact that a year ago, right around this time, it was the Jimmy Butler introductory press conference, basically in the visiting interview room down at Crypto.com Arena with Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr and Jimmy walking in and all that. We were down there for it on that night and did the show from down there on that night. And tonight it was similar with Porzingis coming in and obviously Dunleavy addressing the trade and the rumors and the state of where the Warriors currently sit here with now 29 games to go and a 28 and 25 record with those 29 games to go. And again, looking like officially no Porzingis for the final 2 games. And it sounds like he's in a good spot to make his debut that first game after the break. And Steph, it sounds like officially, I think doubtful, but if you heard the Lisa Salters report on ESPN there and ABC, as they had the national telecast of the Saturday night showcase game, she said, hey, I talked to Steph and it sounds like he's going to be good to go after the break. And it shouldn't be something that necessarily lingers in terms of this runner's knee. But it seems like the Warriors at this point, for what's remaining of this season, the goal at least is, all right, you're going to get Porzingis, who you have, into the mix and get him some time with Rick Celebrini. He's going to hang out in the Bay around the All-Star break and get some workouts and some stuff done there. You've got Steph, who's going to continue to rehab and ramp up. And then basically the Warriors are going to consider it a 27-game sprint to the finish line. And we'll see if they can keep Porzingis healthy. We'll see how healthy Steph can be and others. And, if we'll also see if the Warriors can get, maybe the Memphis game. I know the San Antonio game is going to be tough if you're talking about no Steph and obviously no Jimmy, as competitive as the Warriors have been at times here with the woefully shorthanded lineup, including the surprise comeback win on the game in Phoenix. And look, this team is playing hard. You do have to give them credit for that, but it's just not going to be the most talented crew. And that's even with trying to lean more on Horford and trying to lean more on Melton and Pat Spencer. I thought, tonight got another start and Spencer, I thought, played pretty well, scoring 14 points in this one. Moses Moody ends up with 25. You get Podziemski with 14, although it's an inefficient shooting 14 for Brandon Podziemski. GP2 provided an offensive lift in the first half. Guy Santos continues to not maybe be equipped, let's say as equipped in certain matchups against certain opponents stylistically or certain body types. I think you could see that some of the size that the Lakers have and anytime there's size and athleticism, I mean, Santos will attempt to hold his own and battle and, 15 and 8 and 3 assists and all of that. But at times, Guy Santos is going to be somebody that just physically is going to be kind of overmatched. And I thought there were times in the game where he held his own tonight. I thought there were times in the game where he showed that he was maybe a little bit overmatched physically. But you're going to get an honest effort from Guy. And it's interesting because I do think Guy is one of the players. And look, there are going to be opportunities for a lot of the Warrior players here, the younger players in particular. And now the focus of that is Moody and Podziemski and Guy. I think to a lesser extent, Quentin Post. I mean, he struggled to a point where I know he was out there a little bit tonight, ended up playing, 5 minutes, got a little short run. I think Post is going to be somebody with Porzingis now going to be in the mix and Horford already in the mix. And Horford's been playing some of his best basketball. So I think Post is going to get fewer and fewer opportunities. And that's maybe okay because you do have Porzingis and Horford in a perfect world. Maybe Post gets some time as the backup big on the nights in which it winds up being, a back-to-back. And I would imagine Porzingis and Horford already doesn't play back-to-backs. I would imagine that those two would split the back-to-backs that the Warriors have remaining, with one player playing in one and the other playing in the other. And Quentin Post would have an opportunity in those back-to-backs to basically play a little bit maybe in both those games. But what I'm getting at in particular as it relates to Guy Santos, this is an opportunity for him to grow over the final 2 months of the season. And let's see how good, or impactful a player Guy Santos actually can be with some extended run. Do we look up in April and we go, oh man, you know what? This guy is an every night bona fide rotation player that's kind of a find, and he hustles and he brings energy. And sure, there's going to be some of those nights, as I mentioned, that he may not have the physical advantage that he needs to be able to succeed, but can he basically grow into an every night rotation player here over the next 2 months and become a player that the Warriors can count on? Because in a lot of these games where the Warriors have been competitive, when they've been pretty shorthanded, it's been Guy Santos who's been an inspirational and also an effective, balanced type player in terms of what he's brought to the table. So something to keep an eye on. Obviously, it's been the case with Moody. Podziemski still too up and down, even on a night like tonight. Can he shake some of that off here between now and the end of the season? Those are kind of some of the things to watch for as it relates to the game tonight. But some other quick thoughts on it. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Warriors up 10-8 early in this one. Again, they weren't hitting shots, but they were defending and hustling. GP2 doing his thing. Warriors, one of those, up 17-10, then down 18-7. They've become a hustle team, and I think we're seeing they're going to have to become a hustle team with the group that they have. And it was incredible to a certain extent. They were 2 for 17 from three-point range at the end of the first quarter, and they had forced the Lakers into some turnovers. Lakers had 6 at the end of the quarter. The Lakers were kind of sloppy. You look up at halftime, and the Lakers pretty sloppy. 13 first half turnovers. It's 21-20 Warriors at the end of the first quarter. It's 42-41 Warriors at the half, and the Warriors were 5 for 27 in the half from 3-point range. So again, you give the Warriors credit for trying to make it kind of a grimy game. And then in the second half, I think it wound up being, LeBron taking it over early. LeBron had 6 points in the first half a minute, basically of the quarter, and ended up with another couple of buckets. And the Lakers at that point were up 9, and the Warriors would come back. The Lakers would push it out again. The Warriors would come back. The Lakers would push it out again. That was basically the way that the third and the fourth quarters went. Golden State 87-86. They had cut it down to in the middle of the quarter, basically. And from that point on, though, at 87-86, it winds up being an 18-13 Laker advantage to go on and prevail in this one, 105-99. So 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. We do have Kyle Harr in the Daly City studios. Kyle, what's going on tonight, my man? Bring you into the conversation. We'll jump to some Kyle's clicks here in this segment and some thoughts on the game, and then we will continue as we get on into the night. We'll hear from Mike Dunleavy. We'll hear from Kristaps Porzingis and kind of react to that. As the Warriors are basically at the point here where they've got the 2 games to get through now, likely without Steph and Porzingis. And then we'll see if the Dubs can get everybody back and healthy, and we'll see what kind of run they can make over the final 29 games of the season that remain now. It'll be 27 after they play on Monday and Wednesday. But what's going on tonight, Kyle? Just give me your general big overarching takeaway. Competitive, both teams shorthanded, but for me, it was still the Lakers had LeBron and the Lakers had Austin Reeves, and Rui Hachimura always kills the Warriors. Man, he's somebody I'd actually like to maybe end up seeing in a Warrior uniform at some point. But he always kills the Warriors. That 3-and-D, sturdy wing player. I'm a Rui Hachimura guy.
Oh, same.
And always. Yeah, and he plays well against the Dubs. But anyway, enough LeBron, enough Reeves, and just not enough from the Warriors up and down the line tonight to be able to prevail in this one.
Yeah, long time no talk, JD, but I mean down the stretch there, I mean it felt like can they steal one again? But no.
Very similar.
Yeah, it had that feeling. I think a couple missed threes from Moses and Guy Santos there in like the with like 4 minutes left, could have put them over the top. But you know what is interesting, JD, now is I'm kind of going back and looking at the box score, is Quinn Post falling out of the rotation more more and more. And this is even without Kristaps Porzingis playing in a Warriors jersey yet. So I am curious when Porzingis gets minutes here, that if Quinn Post gets completely knocked out of the rotation.
I think that is where it's headed. I think Post is going to be out of the rotation on the nights where Porzingis and Horford both play. I do think he'll have the potential to get opportunities when one of them sit. And again, I would imagine, as I've said a couple of times here in the last few days, I would think that between Horford and Porzingis, they will split the back-to-back. So basically, they'll pick one that Porzingis is going to play and Horford won't, and then they'll pick one that Horford's going to play and Porzingis won't. And in both of those, you would need maybe another big to play. So Quentin Post would probably go from not playing at all on the nights where both of those guys are healthy and available to being somebody that would get to play on both ends, basically, of the back-to-back. And those would just be the times in which he could account for getting some court time, because you'd only have one of the bigs be able to play as you try to sort through keeping both of those guys healthy and productive at their age. And in Porzingis' case, more specifically, with the injury history that he has. So I think that's how they'll probably handle it. But again, I think it's a nice problem to have if you can keep Porzingis healthy, because Porzingis does have the ability to impact games in a pretty significant, not the Steph or Jimmy Butler way, of course, of impacting games, but I do think Porzingis, when he's right, he does have the ability to impact games at a level that would put him, I think, pretty clearly among the healthy Warriors team, like as a decent third option. Now, again, unfortunately, he's going to have to be the second option for the Warriors with Steph, and that's probably more than you want to have him have to be at this point. But if that leads to maybe Post falling out of favor in terms of the rotation, I think that's okay. But there are still, between Gee and between Podziemski, I think Moody, Moody played some really good defense tonight. I mean, I know that the shot and the scoring is always something we talk about, but to me, the key question is, it's the three of Moody, Podziemski, and Gee Santos. Can those three players, with really the I don't want to say without the expectation of winning, because I do think the Warriors are going to come out and they're not tanking and they are going to try to win. And it sounds like Steph's going to be healthy here coming out of the break, and so is Porzingis, and they're going to figure out what they have with the guys that are available to them. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see, can Pods and Moody and Gee really get to a point where all three of those guys, by the end of the year, you're lacking question marks as to whether they could be in the rotation, whether they could be in a 9 or a 10-man rotation every single night. And Moody and Podziemski basically have been that anyway. But, you look at Gee Santos, and he's been more of a spot. Some nights he's in, some nights he's out. Some nights the matchup's good for him, some nights it's not. Like, I think with the Warriors' lack of wings, he is going to get a lot of opportunity to just go out and play and make mistakes and attempt to try and get better. And we're going to know one way or another, I think. And that has to sort of shift for Golden State as they evaluate this year, and it relates to next year. It's really going to shift, I think, a lot of, what level of move, and are there more than just the one move that maybe they have to make in the offseason now, still having all of their draft capital afforded to them, and still having the ability to maybe go and make another trade come the summer, even as disappointing as the way things played out for the Warrior fans, the way this trade deadline shook out. So 808 KNBR, let's get some clicks here to roll through here, as it is Dubs OT with JD. EB here until the last 5 minutes. The Warriors were in the game. That second half spurt by the Lakers hurt us to start. Yeah, to me, it was the stretch run, obviously, with the Warriors trailing by one after they had gotten back into the game. And the Warriors were in the game, really, I agree with you, the whole night. It was that spurt with the Warriors cutting it to 1, and then the Lakers kind of putting the game away. And then it was also, I think, that opening to the third quarter where LeBron kind of woke up at the beginning of that quarter and took the game over in the first minute, really took the game over for the first 5-6 minutes, and established a little bit of separation that the Lakers were able to use to their advantage for the remainder of the night, to where if the Warriors did cut back into it a little bit, then the Lakers would just go on a little mini run of their own and push the lead back up. And it just became apparent that the Warriors were not going to be able to match once the offense got flowing in this one. The Warriors were feeling good when you looked at the game in the low 20s as far as the quarters go. 21-20 first quarter, 21-21 second quarter. But then the Warriors get the offense going in the third, but so do the Lakers, 38-29. And then the fourth quarter, the Warriors did end up winning it late, 28-26, to fall by 6. But the higher output offensively played in the favor of the Lakers, because the Warriors, as they're currently constituted, are just not going to have enough to be able to keep up. And again, I thought the Warriors did a great job of making the game really ugly. Make it really ugly. That's the pathway. Make it a hustle game. Make it a defensive game. Make it a game that's frankly hard to watch. I mean, when you think of, especially in the context of this being an ESPN Saturday night showcase game, and of course, no Steph, no Jimmy, no Luka plays a role in that. But as I always say, I mean, and I mentioned it on Just Dubs this morning, this game is the Warrior-Laker game tonight, as far as the networks go, when they have their scheduled draft back in August and the NBA schedule comes out and they decide where they're going to put certain games where. This game is probably a top 5 pick on the entire NBA schedule as to where it's going to get placed. And so to have that game be played with so much star power out is really unfortunate, obviously, just from a watchability standpoint. If you're just an NBA fan, of course, the Warriors brutalized by the fact that Jimmy Butler's out for the year and Steph Curry's been out here for the last week, and it sounds like is going to be out until the first game after the All-Star break, which is 12 days away now, on the 19th when they host Boston. All right, let's get a few more here as we get it rolling. Buddha Cat, the refs took it easy on Draymond tonight. He could have had a couple of flagrant fouls. Yeah, and a couple of those not reviewed. Draymond was all wound up. The screen that was called an offensive foul, where he took Reeves out. I thought that was definitely one that could have been reviewed. I thought the play where he got into it with Vanderbilt is another one that could have been reviewed. I thought all in all, and I know Warrior fans always look at the free throw count anytime the Lakers and the Warriors are playing. And I was going to say good night for the officials in terms of that stuff with Draymond. And I think it's right to point out, but you look up and again, 30 free throw attempts for the Lakers. They make 24 of them. The Warriors end up 7 for 11 at the free throw line. So the Lakers shoot 19 more free throws than the Warriors do. Again, I think that's more an indicator of the Warriors just don't have guys who get to the free throw line. The Lakers do, in addition to the times where the Lakers do get a more beneficial whistle than other teams in the league. I mean, you're not tops in terms of free throw attempts in the league over 30 teams. That's something that definitely can be noted as we look at the Lakers on nights that they are playing the Warriors. On nights they're not playing the Warriors, they typically do end up having an advantage over everybody on most nights. But again, I think that the difference in this, and if you're a Warrior fan, of course, you're going to quibble about a call here and a call there. But I do think the Warriors did get, and Draymond did get, some benefit of the doubt. I think there are nights, believe it or not, Buddha Cat, where I kind of feel like there are nights where Draymond might have been thrown out of the game, like for things that we saw tonight. To be real, whether it would be something reviewed and turned into a flagrant, he ended up getting a technical. Couple, and a lot of times he might just lose it if he thinks obviously that he's not getting a fair shake with the officiating. So I do think the Warriors maybe benefited from a more composed crew tonight. than we sometimes see. But that being said, as far as the free throw disparity and all of that, the Warriors just don't have dudes who can get to the line without Jimmy Butler. And I think that's going to be something that, as they have to slog through the final 29 games here, I think that is going to be something that we're going to be monitoring. It's going to be a reoccurring theme is probably the best way to say it in a lot of games as we head down the stretcher where you look up and the Warriors just can't get to the free throw line because they just don't have guys that are able to do it effectively. All right, let's keep it rolling here in the chat. 808 KMBR if you want to jump in and join the conversation. Appreciate everybody who was with us this morning on Just Dubs and, again, with us here tonight as we have Dubs OT following the Warriors' loss to the Lakers, 105-99, the final. And we appreciate everybody on YouTube and Twitch as well. Best YouTube chat in sports. And we love to keep it as interactive as possible here for the people. Our buddy Gene Melton didn't have it tonight offensively, but he had 5 steals showing his impact. Yeah, Melton always has some kind of an impact on the game, but a tough night for DeAnthony Melton. He did have 3 turnovers. The Warriors have been getting steals, man, 16 steals. They forced 22 turnovers overall. Again, some of that was maybe Lakers sloppiness, but 16 steals, 5 of them from Melton. He does make an impact on the nights where he doesn't score. But again, you see the difference. The Warriors really need him to score, and nobody's going to necessarily be able to do it every single night. But on the nights where they don't get it, especially if they're nights where they're not going to be playing with Steph, in addition to Jimmy being done for the year, it's going to be really hard for this team to find enough scoring from other areas to be able to win against most teams on a lot of those nights. But yeah, he absolutely shows his impact, I think, defensively and in terms of intangibles, but it was not a good DeAnthony Melton night as far as the offensive game goes. 1 of 6 from 3. The Warriors, again, tonight, only 14 3-point makes. The Lakers only hit 11. Lakers don't shoot a lot of them, 11 out of 27, so they were efficient. And Hachimura always seems to kill the Warriors from 3. Tonight, Hachimura 4 for 5. Vanderbilt 2 for 3. Kennard hit a couple. Warriors left him open a couple of times, including out of a timeout. The Lakers ran a nice play to get him a good look from the corner, and he was able to knock it down. But on the Warriors side of things tonight, 42% shooting, 27 from 3. Lakers end up 40% from 3. They got to the line a ton, and when it was all said and done, they shot 35 of 69 for just over 50%. So it ended up actually turnovers notwithstanding for the Lakers. It wound up being a pretty good offensive game in terms of efficiency for the Lakers, despite the slow start and the low scoring 21-20, 21-21 first and second quarters. Ian J, give Guy a 2-year, $8 million deal. The team needs some cheap labor. I'm not sure what Guy's going to get. I don't think we really know. I mean, Guy's making 2.2 right now. I think, doubling that probably at a minimum is what you're looking at. And I think that's in line, Ian J, with what you're saying, but we got to see how it shakes out. I mean, it could wind up being more than that, depending upon how Guy Santos ultimately plays here. But he is somebody that I think, again, we don't know what the ceiling is for Guy, but he is somebody with the hustle and the intangibles and the skills, right? I mean, he's not a great 3-point shooter, but he can knock down some open ones when his feet are set. He is a high IQ offensive player in terms of the ability to move and pass the basketball, and he cuts well, and he just does a lot of little things. He's just a winning player in the NBA. And so I don't think there's a range in which you'd be uncomfortable with what Guy Santos is ultimately going to make. And I also think Guy Santos is somebody down the line that would be in demand if you wound up maybe wanting to move on from him at some point. He's just somebody that I think is going to be in the league and continues to show it on a night in, night out basis as a minimum, I think 10 to 15 guy on a roster. But again, I think that the thing for Guy that we're all looking at now in the final 2 months of this season, plus the play-in tournament, assuming the Warriors can get there, and we'll see from there. I think they're trying to figure out, can he be a bona fide top 8 type rotation player for them next year? So that remains to be seen. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll take our first time out. 808 KMBR. JD, what about Lonzo Ball and the Warriors? I'm reading, what's this about Lonzo Ball? Let's get to that coming back on the other side. That's a nice segue. Fozzie, yes, it is true. We talked about it on Just Dubs this morning, and the reports indicating that the Warriors are going to try to sign Lonzo Ball to a contract after he has been waived, and he has been waived by the Jazz. And so they're looking at the buyout market and looking to take a shot on Lonzo Ball to come back and be the 15th roster spot now. So we'll get into that coming up here. We'll also hear from Mike Dunleavy as he addressed the trade of Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield for Kristaps Porzingis, Trace Jackson Davis as well, but the big focus obviously on Porzingis. Kuminga gone, and we'll get into that coming up. Kristaps Porzingis also met with the media down in Los Angeles before the game, so we'll let you hear a little bit from the newest member of the Golden State Warriors. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. It is Dubs OT as the Warriors lose 105-99. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Moody lobs it over to Podziemski. Santos, corner three, got it! He's Santos with his first three-pointer. He's in double figures. It's a one-point game.
And you know, when you ask Steve Kerr to talk about which of the guys that's getting expanded opportunity that really has grown the most, he didn't hesitate. He said Guy Santos very quickly because of how much more confident he is offensively.
Yeah, Guy Santos is getting an opportunity with Jimmy Butler out, and Steve Kerr's addressed it, and he's somebody that I think is going to get some further evaluation here. Warriors lose to the Lakers tonight. Moses Moody goes for 25 in 39 minutes to lead the Warriors and lead all scorers tonight, but it's not enough. LeBron ends up with 20 to lead the Lakers, and it was kind of a balanced attack for Los Angeles. Austin Reeves, 16 big ones off the bench. Marcus Smart had 15. Jarrett Vanderbilt had 13. Kennard with 10. Rui Hachimura ended up with 18, was actually the number 2 man for the Lakers and the number 3 man for the game. So more balance and efficiency for the Lakers offensively than the Warriors had. And the Warriors, again, a couple of big runs right at the beginning of the third quarter. LeBron goes on a mini run, and then the 11-0 run when the Warriors had cut the lead down to 1 there to put the Lakers up by 12 in the fourth quarter. That the difference-making moment of the game as the Lakers wind up prevailing 105-99. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The number. We will hear from Mike Dunleavy and Steve Kerr and Kristaps Porzingis coming up in the next segment. So we'll get some more chats here, but we'll hear some of that pregame stuff coming up in the next segment. We did have Fozzie though, and we can bring that comment back up on the screen because he mentioned Lonzo Ball. JD, what's this about Lonzo Ball and the Warriors? I'm reading, well, it is true. The Warriors, couple of things as Golden State makes the trade with Porzingis coming in, obviously Kuminga and Buddy Hield going out. So that opened up a roster spot for the Warriors to add Pat Spencer. And Pat Spencer, I thought Pat Spencer maybe could have played a little bit more tonight than he did. I thought it was interesting. Kerr did give him the start, and we've said it. I think he needs to be the guy who's going to be the starter with Steph out at the point guard spot. And I thought he played well, 14 points. He's knocking down the 3 ball, 7 assists, only 1 turnover. He played 28 minutes, so he played a lot. But I think Kerr kind of found himself in some lineup combinations where it was one of those nights where Podziemski, other than his shooting, was doing a lot to impact the game in a positive manner. And then it becomes, well, if Podziemski's going to be out there and you want to have Melton out there and, GP2 had been doing some stuff. So, somebody isn't necessarily going to be out there quite as much. And I think, that was somebody who, Pat Spencer was the guy I thought that fell into that tonight. Among Warrior players that were playing well. And, maybe in hindsight, and again, it's in hindsight, you look back and you go, well, maybe tonight would have been a night where more Spencer and less Melton would have been in order. But Melton is obviously somebody that you're going to want to lean on and have be impactful to this team as a creator and a leader and a stabilizing presence now with the Warriors in this position where they're going to have to play without Jimmy Butler for the remainder of the season. But as far as Lonzo Ball, Pat gets the 1 spot, and the Trace Jackson Davis trade sends him to Toronto, and that opened up a second roster spot. So the Warriors had 14 with Pat, and Pat was officially converted today as he had to be, maximizing his 50 games as a two-way player in Phoenix on Thursday night. So they have a roster spot open, and I was curious, and I know that somebody had mentioned Cam Thomas in the text. I was actually curious, would the Warriors really strongly look to even add a 15th player to the roster at all, and until maybe later on? But there was a report this morning, Fozzie, from Jake Fisher and Mark Stein that the Warriors are interested in adding Lonzo Ball to the mix to come in and be the 15th player. And so we'll see. I know Mark Stein reported that he's heard that Ball is going to land with a Western Conference team. And so you look at Lonzo Ball, and he could be on his way to the Warriors. I don't know what the market will be, but Ball, of course, the number 2 overall pick in 2017 by the Lakers. And he wound up this year, he is averaging a little under 11 points per game, basically 11, 5, and 5, 11 points, 5 boards, 5 assists for Lonzo Ball this year. And you look up, though, he's not shooting the ball well. He's only played in 35 games this year with Chicago before he ended up traded to Utah at the deadline, and Utah subsequently waiving him. But Lonzo Ball not shooting it well over this year. He is 30% shooting from the floor, and he's 27% from 3-point range. And so, you look at Lonzo Ball, and those were his career stats, by the way, that I gave, the 10, 5, and 5. Those are Lonzo's career stats. This year, he's basically 4, 4, and 4 with Chicago in the 35 games. So I want to make sure I clarify that. Career 10, 5, and 5, 39% shooter for his career, but he's down to 30 this year. Career 35% 3-point shooter, down to 27% this year. And so, somebody that I think could come in and, you look at, 6'5", can handle the ball, playmaker, willing passer. I think, just somebody else to kind of throw into that mix that you could put out there on a night where maybe Podziemski doesn't have it, on a night where maybe Pat Spencer doesn't have it, or on a night where you want somebody that can kind of create some offense for others when Steph Curry's not going to be out there. And we've seen the Warriors look to do this in the past, where they've tried to buy low on top picks of other years. You go back, you think about a lot of the Warrior players that they acquired. Remember, from Bogut, who was the first pick in the draft, to Sean Livingston, who was a really high pick, I think, 4th pick in the draft, before he had the awful injury that kind of reshaped his career. Iguodala was a lottery pick at one point in his career. Andrew Wiggins was the first pick in the draft. So the Warriors have liked to, through the years, D'Angelo Russell, guys that have been top-level picks. You take a flyer on them as they get on in their career, and you bring them into your program, and you hope that maybe they can help you as role players. Porzingis is another example to a certain extent here. So, it does sound like the Warriors are looking to add Lonzo Ball to the mix here. And it's interesting if they are able to get Lonzo Ball, and I'm looking at it right now, as far as just the way the roster would look, you'd have Steph, you'd have Podziemski, you'd have Steph, you'd have Melton, you'd have Moody, Draymond, Horford, you'd have Porzingis as kind of your backup group. You'd have Podziemski as among your backups. You could throw GP2 in there. You could throw Lonzo Ball in there. You can continue to play Will Richard. Like it just gives you another ball handler with a little bit of size in Lonzo, because Lonzo is 6'5". So he does have more wing. He's closer to wing size, even as a guard, and somebody that primarily is going to be playing the point. And he can, get out in transition, rebound, push the ball, try to get some easy buckets. So I think that's an interesting one. I know a few people have said in the chat, hey, if the Warriors get Lonzo Ball with Porzingis and the Jimmy Butler rehab and trying to get Steph healthy, it's what kind of a raise does Rick Celebrini get in that instance? But I don't think, and I see Ian J here, what's it going to hurt if they bring Ball? I would take a flyer on him. Of course, I saw the comments from from Steve Kerr about LeVar Ball going back, I think, in 2018. I think a lot of that that was a long time ago now. We're basically, that was like 8 years ago. And it does seem like LeVar's less involved over time than maybe he was both with Lonzo and LaMelo. People grow up basically. So I don't think that would be an issue. And hell, I don't think it would be considered if it would be an issue. Lonzo's kind of his own. He's definitely his own man, I would say, at this particular point in time as you look up. But he's still only 28. That isn't. He's only 28 because he came in so young, second pick overall in the 2017 draft. And yeah, Lonzo Ball, potentially, again, not official, but Jake Fisher reporting the Warriors have interest in trying to get him on the buyout market to be the 15th and final rostered player for Golden State. So yeah, stay tuned for that in the coming days here. All right, 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Digum chiming in here. I guess my question is, if you sign Lonzo, why did you sign Pat Spencer to a roster spot? They kind of play the same position, don't they? Yeah, look, Pat earned it, number one. Pat earned the opportunity he provided the Warriors, and they do have roster spots for both, but he provided the Warriors with a lot of help when they've needed it, and somebody that had to be active for basically 50 of the first 51 games of the season. So, he's won them a few games in the first, 53 games, I guess, that the Warriors have played at 28 and 25. One, he's earned it. Two, you don't know that you're going to get Lonzo Ball. So Pat needed to be dealt with in terms of the roster spot today to get him available for tonight's game. So you deal with that, and that's why you create two roster spots. You reward Pat for what he's earned and the opportunity here to make NBA money for a third of a season. That is big time for Pat. And he is, at least for the time being, the starting point guard. You go get Ball because we've seen that Pat Spencer, as fun and cool a story as he's been, Pat Spencer is still not somebody that I think can be fully trusted to even be a regular backup point guard on a night in, night out basis. And look, Lonzo's got more size to his game, more athleticism to his game. Got to keep him healthy, which has been a problem. But again, I think he's got more wing size at the point guard spot, which I think helps on a team. He's not 6'7", 6'8", but if you can have guards that are more like 6'5", I think that is one way that you can make up for maybe not having. If you can have some size at those positions, it's one way to maybe make up a little bit for not having the size you need at a couple of the wing spots. So I think Lonzo plays point guard, but also plays more like a wing who has point guard skills in terms of his size and athleticism. So I think that's why there is somewhat of an appeal to maybe bring Lonzo Ball in. And again, Lonzo Ball, 35 games this year, 4-4-4, basically 4 points, 4 boards, 4 assists. And he's 30% shooting. So he hasn't shot it well, 27% from 3-point range, but it looks like the Warriors are interested there. But I think you can have both. And again, it's a flyer type situation. I think Lonzo, like Porzingis, the Warriors are seeing if those guys can stay healthy in their program for the final third of the season. And if they do, then they've got the inside track to be able to sign them to come back next year and be role players. It's a sneaky way to look to add some depth to the equation. And if it doesn't pan out, then you just let both guys wind up walking. If Golden State gets Lonzo, Seth Curry needs to heal up with spacing. A healthy Porzingis with Lonzo would be great, but we'll see. Mr. E. Painter, I do think, yes, Seth does become somebody that, with Buddy Hield gone, can go more into the Buddy Hield role. Look, Buddy Hield wasn't playing every game, but Seth can provide, if he's healthy, what Buddy can provide, which is just some 3-point shooting, on nights where you need it. So I do think Seth being on the roster makes more sense now that Buddy Hield is not on the roster, but that's somebody that isn't necessarily going to be a player on a night in, night out basis. All right, let's keep it rolling here in the chat. Appreciate everybody chiming in here on YouTube and Twitch. EB here. Warriors are playing better without Buddy and JK. Heavy breathing on the bench. Yeah, look, Mike Dunleavy said this about Porzingis. He was asked about the injury history and bringing a guy like Porzingis in, and I thought he did, maybe unintentionally, took a little shot at Kuminga. He said, well, we got a guy who's had trouble staying on the floor, but we also traded a player that's had trouble staying on the floor. So from that standpoint, it wasn't maybe as much of a loss. And again, I don't say this to be mean, but Kuminga was not going to help this team in any meaningful way between now and the end of the season. And so I do think there is an addition by subtraction component to it. He did not play, by the way, tonight. Wasn't active tonight for Atlanta. Atlanta played. They got beat by Charlotte tonight at home, because who doesn't get beat by Charlotte these days? The Hornets are hot, man. Hornets are really hot. But I was watching a little bit of that game. But it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But they really don't. They really, other than the first 5 games of the year, not having Kuminga is not a loss for this Warriors team, other than the fact that it's an admission, as we've talked about for the last 48 hours to 72 hours, other than the admission that the 2 timeline plan failed and that, Kuminga's tenure with the Warriors was a bust. Again, I'll be very clear. I don't think Kuminga specifically is a bust as a player, but for the Warriors, Kuminga was a bust. James Wiseman's a bust, just a bust as a player. Bust for the Warriors, but a bust as a player in the league. Kuminga is not a bust as a player. He still could go on to have a very nice career. The jury for sure still out on that. But as far as his Warriors tenure, he is definitely a bust as it relates to that. Chris Cash, 9826, thanks for chiming in. Porzingis is going to come in averaging 19 points, 8 boards, 2 blocks off the rip. All we need is 50 games out of him next year, with Post and Horford starting the other 32. Yeah, you can split the time, man. I actually really like the idea of next year rolling with Porzingis and Horford as the centers, basically. And I mean, if you're hell-bent on Draymond not playing center, the way you do it is by going and getting Horford and Porzingis and having both of them be on the team for next year. Now, again, Porzingis is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so we'll see how healthy he can be. We'll see if, the better he plays, the more he may price his way out of being able to return to the Warriors. But again, I think that's a nice problem to have. I think the Warriors would love to bring Porzingis back into the mix and think that maybe for 1 year they could get the Porzingis of the Celtics going back to 2 years ago. And then maybe you find something in the summer, and then maybe you get Jimmy Butler coming back, and then all of a sudden, maybe, again, it's a big maybe, and a lot of things would have to go right, but then all of a sudden, maybe it becomes a scenario where you got a little action come this time next year. Let's get a few more. Buddha Cat, back to Buddha Cat. I'm enjoying watching this team more now that the lineup has gotten reduced. It seems like Kerr was trying to find minutes for all 15 guys before, which was basically a mess. Well, they were figuring that out even before Jimmy got hurt. They were playing fewer players, and they had settled on a starting lineup, and he had really fixed the rotation, I think, and simplified it. They got to a point of desperation, I think, when they fell a game under 500 after that one game they got beat in Phoenix back in December the 18th. And then they got on a roll. They got cooking. What was it, 12-4 from that point on. And then Jimmy Butler goes down right when it was turning into something. And, wouldn't it be interesting? I think everybody would view the Porzingis move a little bit differently, I feel like, if Jimmy Butler was healthy and playing at the level that he was, and maybe the Warriors were continuing at that 12-4 clip over the last 2-3 weeks that it's been. Now, reality is it's not happening, not life. So it goes. But I think, again, the flyer on Porzingis is not the issue with being frustrated about the deal. or being frustrated about it. It's more the indictment of the Kuminga era being a failure, the two timelines being a failure, the lack of creativity in terms of not moving Kuminga 2 years earlier, the inability or unwillingness to package Kuminga with draft capital because you're so focused on Giannis that you don't go in on maybe some other things that could potentially help your roster. Those things are separate and all true and have been litigated over the last 3 days. And we did it earlier today. We did it on Thursday night. All of those things are fair, but Porzingis can play if he's healthy. And I think that's kind of an independent point to be made. As far as, you can be frustrated with the trades. You can think, hey, Porzingis isn't going to be able to help this team. But the reality is he probably is going to be able to help this team if he can be healthy. But it still is an indictment of a lot of things that have gone horribly wrong for the Warriors in terms of the way that they've hung on to their picks and their younger player assets. All right, you're listening to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus Media station, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. As we get into the 9 o'clock hour, we'll keep this thing going probably for another half hour or so here on this Saturday night. And, of course, we'll be back with you Monday and Wednesday from Harmonic in Thrive City. Looking forward to that as always. Watching the Grizzlies right now. They're playing in Portland, and they have a lead on the Blazers coming down the stretch. Looks like it's 104-97 that game's in the fourth quarter. Looks like about 7-8 minutes to go. And the Kings, could the Kings end their 11-game losing streak? Kyle Hard, they are leading Cleveland. They're leading Cleveland right now in Sacramento, midway through the fourth, 107-104. The Kings haven't won in quite a while. So we'll see if they can hold on and get a win in Sacramento because, I think it goes back to I'm trying to think. Well, it's an 11-game losing streak. So that's obviously quite a bit. All right, let's do a couple of more chats. Hey, Beer Man, this team sure is depending on a lot of maybes and what ifs. Fact. I mean, that is just that is the world in which the Warriors live right now because of their inaction and unwillingness to make other moves years ago. The unwillingness to trade Kuminga 2 years ago, the unwillingness to add draft capital to deals to bring players back. It's all the things we were just discussing. This team, so you find yourself with a plan, and it's also, look, here's the other thing. The Warriors are where they are because they went all in on older players. And I don't necessarily think Jimmy tears his ACL because he's old, but is anybody surprised? And that was an awkward fluke, kind of a play in terms of the way he went up to get that ball going up against Davion Mitchell. But the reality is, as you get older, you're more prone to have injuries like that. That's just a fact. And so the Warriors married themselves to the Steph, Jimmy, Draymond trio. And that meant that they were going to have those guys stay healthy. And unfortunately, because they hadn't made other moves, they're in this spot now where they are going to have to hit on some of these flyer type moves and have them pay off for the whole thing to be able to fall together come next year, really, because this is all about next year. I think at this point in time, it really is twofold, and it's still disappointing because I think people wanted a younger, healthier name to be coming back than Porzingis. But I think the Warriors are in a spot where it's try to find a player that can help them this year get through the play-in tournament and get to a first round. And maybe you find a player or two that can be a part of the equation for next year. And then you still are a move away in the summer, which has to be made. And then you have Jimmy Butler coming back, assuming Jimmy Butler's not going to be in the deal to be moved. in the summer with his $56+ million contract. So that's all you can do. I mean, it truly is all you can do is roll with what you have. But again, how did we get here? I think is the big question. And so how we got here is the Warriors, the inaction, the lack of creativity, but also the bet on older players. And when you bet on older players, this is what can happen. I mean, it's always going to be if healthy. And so, yeah, Beer Man, this team is depending on a lot of maybes and what ifs. And I think, that is only going to continue here moving forward with Porzingis, and if they end up taking a shot on Lonzo Ball. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up with more in the YouTube chat. Still time to sneak in a phone call. We do have some texts to get to. I was going to get to some texts in this segment. Didn't quite get to it. But our sounds at Dubs OT, we'll hear from Steve Kerr. We'll hear from Mike Dunleavy, who met with the media before the game on the Porzingis trade. And we'll hear from Kristaps Porzingis as well, as he met with the media down in L.A. For the first time since joining this team. When is he going to play? When is Steph going to play? We'll get into all of that coming up next right here. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no ball.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, rolling along here on this Saturday night. Sounds of Dubs OT. Warriors lose to the Lakers. 105-99 is the final. So the Warriors are 28-25, 3 over 500. 2 games to go before the All-Star break. Home game against Memphis, home game against San Antonio, and then the Dubs will have the first 2 games after the All-Star break at home as well against Boston and Denver. So we'll see. Portland and Memphis going at it right now. Watching that game, Portland has come back. They were down 7 at last check. They're now up, and it looks like the Kings have got a shot to end their 11-game losing streak, up 6 on Cleveland in the final 4 minutes over in Sacramento of that one. But the Warriors now 29 games to go. It'll be 27 after the All-Star break. All right, let's get to our sounds of Dubs OT. We'll start with Steve Kerr. And again, this is pregame in Los Angeles. Kerr provided an update on Kristaps Porzingis, who officially is a member of the Golden State Warriors. When is Kristaps Porzingis going to play?
Yeah, I think the plan is he'll be in the Bay all of All-Star break, and he'll play after the break.
You'd already ruled him out of these next 2, though.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, so out the next 2, stay in the Bay. He is with the team, and he did meet with the media in LA. We'll hear a couple of clips from him coming up here. But, yeah, no Porzingis on Monday, no Porzingis on Wednesday, and that would set up him to make his debut against the team that he helped win the NBA championship a couple of years ago, the Boston Celtics, on Thursday the 19th at Chase Center for the Porzingis the Porzingis debut. All right, let's hear from Porzingis on the opportunity to join the Warriors and just the overall. Was he surprised that he wound up getting traded from Atlanta out to Golden State?
Had no idea. It was a surprise, and was late at night too, so right before sleep. So it was a surprise to me. Excited as always, especially once I found out where I'm going, knowing that also like Al is here, and always like the fan base here, pretty strong fan base from the outside, and thought it would be exciting opportunity.
All right, likes the fans. Know the Warriors have passionate fans. And obviously played with Al Horford on that Celtics championship team of 2024. So he knows Horford, and now he's going to be teaming up with Horford basically as the primary centers for this team over the final third of this 2025-26 season. One more from Porzingis, and then we'll hear from Mike Dunleavy as he addressed the media. Here is Porzingis on being a member of the Warriors here, knowing that he also is going to be a free agent at the end of the season.
Honestly, especially at this stage of my career, I know, usually I think there's even a stat that players play better on their contract year or something, I don't play into that too much. I just want to finish the year strong. It's been already a little bit up and down this season playing out. I just want to finish the year really strong on a new team, new chapter, and see where I go from there.
Yeah, and so he has to prove, I think, a little bit that he has a spot next year in the league, given the injuries. I mean, if he comes into the Warriors and can barely play, let's say they get him healthy and he plays 2 or 3 games or even 5 or 6 games and then winds up having to get shut down for the remainder of the season, he is a minimum player next year. I think, somewhere, and I think there could even be some questions as to at 30 years old, does he wind up not playing? Is there going to be much interest, and at what level would there be interest in Porzingis? So he really is in some ways playing for the continuation, given the Potts issue, and also given the Achilles tendonitis issue that had kept him out most recently. So I think you look at Porzingis and he's he's going to have to show that he's got it here with the Warriors to further his career. So I think it is an opportunity where he is going to be motivated. I think he is in a good spot with the training staff that is top notch for Golden State. That's going to keep him healthy. And again, we all know that if the Warriors can keep him healthy, the skill set definitely is that of a player who can really help this Warriors team with the ability to score. Really the ability to score a little bit down low, the ability to pick and pop, and the ability to defend and protect the rim in a major way. All right, let's hear from Mike Dunleavy on the trade deadline. And of course, the key question is about Porzingis and his ability to be available for this Warriors team. Here's Mike Dunleavy addressing that.
Yeah, I mean, we feel good about it. We looked into it pretty in depth, and yeah, I mean, we believe in our medical staff. There's no guarantees, there's no certainty, but with kind of where he's at right now, where he's been, we feel good about it. And on the other end of it, in terms of like what we're sending out, we're sending out a player in a similar boat who struggled to stay on the floor. So I think from our standpoint, like we recognize the risk medically, but it's a risk we're willing to take.
And again, that I don't think it was a shot. I know I kind of referenced it as a shot, that little spot at the end. Well, we're sending out a player that wasn't, was having a hard time staying on the court as well. And so it just goes to show, for as much as Kuminga was polarizing, and I think this is something that I've tried to point out at times through the years, the Warriors internally, maybe Joe Lacob had his own view of what, internally he believed Kuminga was, but from Steve Kerr, and I think Dunleavy was in lockstep, and I think the Steph and Draymond were in lockstep, the veterans that have been around for a while. He was never thought of as this major piece internally on the day-to-day. It was always about, can he do the things that can get him on the court as a role player to help this team? And so I think, on the one hand, you can look at it, and look, Dunleavy was in the Warrior front office, but didn't make the pick, obviously. And we all know this was Kuminga specifically, a player that Joe Lacob wanted more than anybody. But you look at it, and yes, it is a first round pick that was taken number 7 overall. And there are expectations that come with that. But I think once you remove it, you get a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years removed from that point. Like, as far as even this team, like you look at it as, we traded a guy that really doesn't help us and isn't available all that often, for a guy that might be able to help us and hasn't been available that often, but we're hoping he can be available. Like, it just, the nuts and bolts of it, again, we can argue about how we got here and how bad it is, and it's horrific that the Warriors are even in the position. But it's just trade a guy for another guy that wasn't playing a lot, and now maybe this guy can play a lot. And again, if Porzingis can play, he will be more impactful, even on this team without the championship aspirations. With those gone now, I still think he'll be more impactful than Jonathan Kuminga. All right, let's again, short term as a role player. Not Kuminga could go have a very nice career playing in other places, especially as a scorer. I want to make sure I add that on at the end. All right, one more, and this one was a little peculiar. I want to get some reaction to this in the YouTube chat. We'll get to a few texts, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. This was peculiar. Obviously, it was reported that Draymond Green was included in trade talks, and look, maybe it's just a technicality that it never got to a point where the Warriors made a formal offer, but everybody knew that if the Bucks were going to listen to the Warriors on a deal, they would have included Draymond. So maybe it's a technicality that they didn't have a formal offer, thus he wasn't literally in trade talks. But come on, let's hear Mike Dunleavy. I couldn't believe this when I saw it, given everything and how it played out. I mean, you got Draymond addressing it. After the game on Tuesday in what could be his final game of the Warriors. And then Mike Dunleavy comes out after and says this.
Obviously, Draymond's been pretty open about the fact that at least he knew his name was in conversations. Do you think his relationship with the organization has changed at all because of the fact that he realizes for the first time he's not an untouchable here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd walk that back a little bit. His name was not in conversations, other than the ones where teams call me and ask about him, which they do every year. So nothing's new there. I mean, the idea that he stayed with the Warriors past the deadline was greatly exaggerated. It was never a possibility of him not being here, or remotely close, to be honest. And I've conveyed that to him. I think he knows that. But when stuff comes up in the media, I think it feels different for the players. And I think that's the first time it happened for Draymond. So he's dealing with it in a certain way. But the reality is nothing was close and nothing was considered. And when Draymond was not being shopped or talked about in deals. So it's a little bit misleading. And, we're kind of picking up the pieces here. But I think he's in a great spot. And so are we moving forward.
You said nothing was close regarding Draymond. I'd assume nothing was close in your pursuit of Giannis. What would give you confidence?
Why is that?
Because he would have to be in the deal, or Jimmy.
Okay, well, you're putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
So that's an unbelievable assumption.
So was Jimmy then on the table?
No, we're not doing that. I'm not going on the roster talking about who's in trades and who's not. We don't do that.
All right, fair enough. And it getting a little contentious there. Nick Friedel, our buddy Danny Emmerman as well there at the end. Look, it had to be one or the other. And I understand the fact that Mike doesn't want to say, hey, it was when everybody believed that it was Draymond and it had been reported that it had been Draymond. Draymond had been talked about with by Steve that he addressed it after the Philly game. Like, if it's not Draymond, it's Jimmy. And again, I get it. You're not going to, in a press conference, before a game after the deadline and your post-mortem, I understand you're not going to wind up, just saying who was in what deal and all that. But I mean, let's be honest. And yeah, all right, semantics. It wasn't close. The Bucks kind of ghosted him, and they ghosted everybody because they ended up not trading him. But the reality is, it was one or the other. And maybe it was such a long shot that it was never, going to be something that was going to come to fruition. And because of that, you could walk it back and say, look, I don't think it hurts the relationship between the Warriors and Draymond at all. I thought Draymond handled it. I thought Draymond understood, hey, I mean, it's one part of the business. Two, it would be for Giannis. So, I mean, how could you not if you could get Giannis? But I mean, to say, and I don't know that Mike Dunleavy was saying specifically here that Draymond wasn't involved at all. I don't know. I think he was trying to walk a tightrope there while also kind of acknowledging he was involved. Is that fair, Kyle? Okay, yes. Other than the teams that call on him, well, okay, well, so some teams call and I don't know. The Warriors were in on Giannis to the extent the Bucks were going to be willing to deal him, which obviously the Bucks didn't wind up dealing him. But let's just be honest here. Like, Draymond would have had to have been in the deal. And to Danny's point, and again, I understand Dunleavy not wanting to ask it. It's a fair question to ask, and it's fair for Dunleavy to not answer it. It had to be one or the other. But I will also say that I don't think it's a scenario where, and I will take Dunleavy at his word on this, I don't think that it's a situation where they were actively shopping him around the league. I think it was, if they could get Giannis, he would be in the deal. And if it ever got to a point where it was close, that's how it would have shaken out. But I don't think in turn it was, oh, Giannis isn't happening. Now we're looking to send him to this team and that team and this team over here. And what can we get for Draymond? What can we get for, I don't think they did that. So I think that's maybe part of what Dunleavy's trying to get out there, Kyle.
Yeah, but no, I just the whole kind of answer was so weird, because I was like, well, what do you mean Draymond wasn't on the table? Well, what do you mean you weren't going to trade Draymond? Because it was either Draymond or Jimmy. like that. That was the fact is you would have to trade Draymond or Jimmy. So I think it was just a little confusing there.
Yeah, I think that's I look, I get it. He didn't want to straight up admit Draymond's in the deal or would have been in the deal because there wasn't a deal. Like, so it just like I understand the semantics of it, but I think it's purely semantics at this point. So that's our sounds at Dubs OT here on the Sports Leader following the Warriors loss to the Lakers. 105-99 was the final down in LA. So the Warriors are 28-25. Warriors home Monday, home Wednesday, Memphis and San Antonio. Cleaning up a couple of the games on the scoreboard. I think when we last spoke, the Kings were up 8 with about 4 minutes to go. I think 7. The Cavs were shooting some free throws. Cleveland did come back and win in the final 4 minutes at Sacramento, 132-126. So the Kings have lost 12 in a row. And Portland ended up winning 122-115 over Memphis. So Memphis is the next Warriors opponent. They'll head from Portland down to the Bay and take on the Warriors on Monday. And of course, we'll be with you after that one here on the Sports Leader with Dubs OT. All right, let's get more in the YouTube chat here to wrap things up. As you see Chips McCarthy in the background, appreciate him cutting up all the sound. Thanks for getting that Porzingis, brother. Appreciate you. Chips heading off into the night there. Rusty Nail, if he wasn't, why TF wasn't he? Well, he was. I mean, short answer, he was. Because if he wasn't, then if he wasn't, then it was Jimmy, and they were, trying to do. I think the Warriors were trying to do their best to stand by Jimmy while Jimmy is going through the injuries that he's going through, or the injury that he's going through and the surgery coming up on Monday. And I think they're trying to stand by him to where they didn't want to feel like, all right, we're abandoning this guy because now he's got an ACL, just to throw him in any kind of trade talk possible. Like, I get that from almost, from a human standpoint, given everything Jimmy had brought to the table for the last year. But the bottom line, if he wasn't, that means Jimmy was. And that's why things got contentious there at the end of that clip we played between Emmerman and Mike Dunleavy. All right, let's roll through here. Rusty Nail, thank you. A bunch of chats to get to. Then who was being shopped, Mike? Yeah. Again, it was GMs don't want to say who they're shopping because every player can take that a little bit differently. But we know for a fact if they were in on Giannis, it was Draymond or Jimmy. Point blank, bottom line, end of story. Nothing to quibble about there. But a great and fair question to be asked, Rich Ray, in that press conference. I don't believe anything the front office says. Nothing. Well, I mean, again, this at a minimum, it's a half truth. At a maximum, it's a flat out lie. Diggum. I mean, what it was Dunleavy that said, "Hey, we're not moving Jordan Poole," and then Jordan Poole was gone, just like that. We're not moving Jordan Poole. By Jordan Poole. I mean, I think it wasn't even 72 hours. And Jordan Poole was a wizard. And Chris Paul was with the Golden State Warriors. So I think it's fair to, on the record, assume and understand that, there are half-truths and lies that can be told at times, even or things that are true at the time that wind up not being true. That can come to fruition. All right, let's roll with JTAN49. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D needs to be thought out before the summer movement starts. Dunleavy has work to do between that and the draft. And look, that is the thing as we start to move away from the trade deadline and toward the final 29 games and then eventually to the summer, the Warriors still have all their picks. And the Warriors still have Jimmy Butler's salary, and the Warriors still have Draymond Green's salary, and the Warriors still have other salaries, potentially Porzingis if he does a re-sign and trade, or maybe they keep him. The reality is the Warriors still have a lot that they can look to make a move on in a trade to put themselves in position to get a player that can help this team before Jimmy Butler comes back at some point in the early part, in all likelihood, of 2027. EB here. I don't understand why everybody wants the GM to show his cards. Have you guys ever played poker? Totally. Again, I get that. And it's just not appropriate to say on the record in a press conference with like 30 people in a very small room, and I'm guessing there were probably 30 people in a very small room down at, because I've been in that room at Crypto, standing room only. I get why you're not going to come out and be like, yeah, we had, it was Draymond and Pods and Moody and all our picks, and they actually wanted TJD, but we were going to send him to Toronto, and like you just don't do that. And yes, part of it is the poker component, but part of it is you just don't publicly come out and say you're looking to move specific players. So it's just not how it works. Zerkarex, at least Porzingis can still play. AD is done with this season. And I think, part of that is where AD went. Washington's going to shut him down and bring him back for next year, and we'll see what they can do. But I think I do think if the Warriors evaluated Davis, and my understanding is they really weren't in on Davis, but if they were evaluating Davis and Porzingis, it's as crazy as it is to say, it kind of feels like they'd get more out of, they have the potential to get more out of Porzingis, because Davis wasn't coming back until March at the earliest, probably the middle of March at the earliest. And so Porzingis was about to be able to come back. And if you can get him in the Rick Celebrini program, Camp Celebrini, during the All-Star break, you can get him, you can wind up getting more from Porzingis between now and the end of the year than you would have gotten from Davis. So I think that's also fair to factor in. Let's keep it rolling here. Do you guys think this team is capable of going 19-10 in the next 29 games? I do not. I do not think they're capable of going 19-10 in the next 29 games. That would be basically what it would take to probably get into the top 6, roughly. I would say that would be the Warriors are 28-25, so they go 19-10. That would end up 47 wins, 47-35. No, I mean, they went 23-8 last year in 31 games after they got Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler was awesome. So no, I don't, Scartorius. I think, what would I say the ceiling is for this team in the final 29 games? And we know Steph and Porzingis aren't playing the next 2. So we're really talking about the final 27 games. And we're really talking about the Warriors maybe taking at least 1, if not 2 L's between now and the break. I mean, the Memphis game is gettable. Memphis obviously is in a spot where they are actively tanking now. So that's a game you can get. San Antonio is going to be a tough game on Wednesday, and the Warriors have already beaten them a couple of times. So the Spurs are going to want to put one on them. So you're probably taking a loss there, but I don't know. What is the ceiling for the Warriors over the final 29 for me? Man, 16-13, 17-12, 17-12 feels like it's too much. Honestly, I would say 16-13, 16-13. You go 16-13, you end up 44-38 from where you were. That would be roughly 500 from the time that Jimmy went down. So, I mean, I think, to me, and again, you can, maybe I'll revise that. I'm sure it's a question that'll come up as we get toward the All-Star break on Wednesday, expectations and coming out of the break for the final 27, 28 games. And look, people are going to say, it's funny. It's how I know I'm on point, because there are times where people think I'm being too hard. There are times where people think I'm not being hard enough on this team or the front office. But I don't know, 16-13, Let's do a rapid fire of those who have put numbers in the chat if we can. I think 16-13 is the ceiling. What's the ceiling? What's the ceiling for this team in the final 29? Kyle, what do you got? What do you got as far as what do you think is the best they could do in the final?
Oof. 16-13 feels right. Like I'll just one up you and say 17-12. But like if I am gonna be realistic, like 14-15.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Robert Brown. Yeah. Richie 16-13 sounds real. Robert Brown 10-19 is more likely than 19-10. I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. 15-14 maybe. Yeah, 15-14 is about right. I think a little bit above 500 would be what the Warriors internally are. I mean, you obviously set the goals a lot higher than that, but I think that's probably about right. Rich Ray 21-8. Rich Ray 21-8. There you go, Rich Ray. 15 or 16 from our buddy Reed the Steed. And again, I want to go back. I think 16's as high as I'm going to go. All right, let's do a couple of more here, and then we'll wrap it up on this Saturday night. Damn, Warriors bargain binning like Farhan. LOL. Could have had Jaren Jackson Jr., but Lonzo, hopefully he still has some juice with those baller brand shoes from Clem Ackers. Yeah. They definitely are. I mean, the Jaren Jackson Jr., it didn't come up tonight until you brought it up there, Clem, but I've said it a few different times over the last 3 days. I think that is the one player that the Warriors truly are going to regret that they maybe missed out on because they were a little bit too focused on Giannis for a little bit too long, because Jaren Jackson Jr. would have really helped this team. And yes, he's not Giannis, but I mean, stretch big, rim protector in his 20s, somebody that I think the Warriors could try to make into a little bit of a smarter player in terms of his awareness and fouling. He's obviously, I mean, he comes up, I don't know. I think he is somebody that the Warriors would have loved to have gotten their hands on and thought that they could, Draymond potentially with Jaren, although I guess Draymond probably would have had to. No, I guess he probably wouldn't have been in that deal because Kuminga would have gone somewhere, so it wouldn't have necessarily had to have been. But Draymond with his Michigan State guy, kind of helping him grow up along the way, to continue to develop. So yeah, JJJ is the one that I think definitely will haunt if there is a name that the Warriors potentially could have had. Lonzo gets injured, so he could be a fit. Yeah. All right, let's get our comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
But can Lonzo take a charge like Pods? That's pretty funny. Yeah. I don't know. Pods is damn good at that, man. He got another one tonight. Another one tonight. But yeah, it's funny. Read the Steed, a multi-time winner. Their Dubs OT comment of the night. All right, that's going to do it for us. Do we want to do fun with numbers tonight? Let's do a short fun with numbers on our way out the door here. Go ahead and play the thing.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors lost 3 of the last 4. They go 1-1 on the 2-game road trip. Again, back home for Memphis and San Antonio Monday and Wednesday. Then it's the All-Star break. The Warriors 21-7 now when they either win or have the same amount of turnovers. They win the turnover battle tonight, but lost for just the 7th time in 28 games when they do win the turnover battle. 6 of the last 8, we talked about the steals. The Warriors have had double digits in steals, 16 tonight. 25th time this season that the Warriors have had double digits in steals. And then some individual notes here. Moses Moody, game high 25, 8th 20-point game of the season. Moody's been in double figures 12 of the last 13 games, career best streak of 10 or more points. Pat Spencer, two-way contract converted. He ended up with 14 points. He's had 10 or more for his third straight game in the 12th time this season, and it was a balanced all-around game for Pat Spencer, who had 5 boards and 7 assists to go with the 14 points in 28 minutes. Guy Santos, 15, extending his double-figure streak to 6 games in a row. 8th game of the season, scoring 10 or more, and the 18th of Guy Santos' career. Brandon Pajemski had 14. GP2 had 13. Second straight game in double figures. And Stephen Curry, doubtful for Monday. And it sounds like Steph isn't going to be playing until after the All-Star break, with the Warriors having the 2 games to go. Warriors fall to 5-9 in the 14 games that Steph has missed on the season. All right, that'll do it for us. Big thanks to everybody. Big thanks to everybody in the YouTube chat. I did want to clean up a couple of text messages here before we get out. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, 209, avoid getting older players. Giannis is going to tear his Achilles. Well, they're out on Giannis, at least for a while. 707 was weighing in on Cam Thomas. Looks like that's going to be Lonzo Ball. 831, Joe Lacob sucks. He's the new Jerry Jones. He ruined this franchise all because he couldn't handle others in the organization getting credit for his success. Well said. I do think that's been a part of the problem here for the last half decade plus. So we shall see. And we'll see how things ultimately shake out. It was a no on Cam Thomas. 916. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Appreciate that. 331, Melton needs to step up and ball with Steph out. 510, if Kerr didn't want JK, why would they not have traded him years earlier? Then to re-sign him just so you could trade him, then really get nothing for him. Yeah, it's not the best outcome as well. And so we shall see how things shake out with 2 games to go before the break. All right, that'll do it. Big thanks to Kyle Haar. Big thanks to Chips McCarthy for getting the job done. Anybody I'm leaving out tonight, Kyle?
You got it all. And Raph.
All right.
Shout out Raph from earlier.
And shout out Raph from earlier and Just Dubs. We love these Saturdays where we can talk Dubs in the morning and then talk Dubs again at night. We've got another one of those coming up 3 weeks from tonight when the Warriors take on the Lakers again. 3 weeks from tonight. They will go at it at Chase Center in another Saturday night showcase. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. Enjoy. I know it's a tough one for the Bay with the Seahawks and the Patriots, but it is still Super Bowl Sunday. So enjoy the game, and we'll be back on Monday with Dubs OT from Harmonic in Thrive City immediately following the Warriors and the Grizzlies. We'll talk to you then right here on the Sports Leader. Good night.